Ahead on our news tonight, families of the 3 tourists who died on Exuma want their own pathologist as Exuma pauses to remember the lives lost. Plus, lifting the mask mandate, the health minister speaks. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Kendino Knowles. The families of 3 American visitors who were found dead at Sandals Emerald Bay Resort on Exuma want an international pathologist to perform independent postmortems. The Health and Wellness Minister revealing as much today, while authorities or local autopsies are complete. The victims' families say they still want answers. Here's Jasmine Brown.
11 days after they were found dead in their luxury villas, the families of 3 dead American tourists are still looking to get clarity on their mysterious and sudden deaths.
There was requests by family members of the deceased to bring in a pathologist from abroad to do another autopsy because, you know, to move bodies across water, they have to be embalmed.
The health minister says the government is facilitating the request.
We are willing to assist anyone who wants to get to the bottom of their loved ones, and so those requests are being entertained. I'm not sure exactly where they are at this point.
The deceased were identified as 68-year-old Michael Phillips and his wife, 65-year-old Robbie Phillips, along with 64-year-old Vincent Chiarella. Chiarella's wife, Donis, who was found alive, was airlifted to a hospital in the United States. The couples were staying in separate villas next to each other in the same building at the resort, according to officials who said there were no signs of trauma to their bodies. The matter has been the subject of public concern for weeks. Last week, Police Commissioner Paul Roll advised that the pathology report could take a couple of weeks to complete. Deputy Prime Minister and Exuma's and Ragged Island MP Chester Cooper also weighing in on the investigation.
We want to ensure that we get it right, checking it over again. So the reality is the U.S. Embassy has also been involved. The persons who died were Americans. It seems normal that they would want a lab in the USA to verify what has happened.
Meantime, Dr. Darville says the police are still awaiting the results from samples that were sent to a lab in the United States.
Those investigations are still ongoing. To my understanding, there's still some investigations ongoing at Sandals Resort. We also have the pathologists in country who have done their job, and samples were sent to a very reliable lab in the United States, and the toxicology reports are still outstanding.
Now, Darville says the Davis administration will continue to work closely with U.S. officials as well as the families as they seek to determine exactly what happened in Exuma. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Thanks, Jasmine. Well, it's been 11 days since we learned of the mysterious deaths of those 3 American tourists at the Sandals Emerald Bay Resort in Exuma. While authorities and families await the autopsy results, the Exuma community is trying to heal from the sudden and traumatic deaths. Our Jerome Sawyer attended a special service on Exuma Monday night.
They prayed.
We are not ungrateful people, so we have paused this evening to say thank you, Lord.
They sang. It was called an evening of prayer and restoration, prayers for the souls of the 3 deceased and for the recovery of the 4th survivor now hospitalized in the U.S., and for the employees of Sandals still reeling from the discovery of 3 dead tourists in 2 villas now 11 days ago.
We gathered here on such a sad occasion to lift up prayers to dearly departed families, friends, Sandals Emerald Bay Resort, who are being affected by this untimely death.
Sandals General Manager Jeremy Mutton leading a contingent of staff to the evening service and speaking to the emotionally trying times they still face.
This remains a very sad situation, and while the investigation continues, we continue to extend our condolences to the family, and we continue to keep the families and our team members in our thoughts and prayers.
The service organised by the Exuma Christian Council also giving Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Tourism and Exuma MP Chester Cooper an opportunity to remind the community that their hotel guests are indeed family.
Tonight, our family mourns the loss of Michael and Robbie Phillips and Vincent Shirella. And we pray for the continued recovery of Donna Shirella, who survived but lost her husband. The Phillips hailed from Tennessee and were no strangers to Exuma. They considered this their home away from home. They visited many times and arranged for many people to get to know our beautiful paradise. The Shirellas from Alabama were also in love with Exuma and decided to celebrate their anniversary here when the unthinkable occurred.
In a community where tourism is so important to the economy and the overall lifeblood of this island, it was important to have the service not only to begin the healing process, but also to show the employees and the executives of Sandals that they are important to this island in so many ways. From Farmers Hill in Exuma, for Our News, I'm Jerome Sawyer.
All right, in other news tonight, relief is on the way for Potter's Key vendors who lost their stalls to fire last year. Minister of Agriculture, Marine Resources and Family Island Affairs, Clay Sweeting, making the pledge this morning, saying he met recently with those vendors.
We provided them with their letter to access supplies, which would, in essence, be $96,000 amongst the 6 vendors. We also provided them with 2 plans, one from a private architect, one from the Ministry of Works, which they can select between the 2. We've also included an optional deck.
More affordable housing on the way as government is entering into a $20 million loan agreement to fund the Renaissance at Carmichael subdivision. Prime Minister Philip Davis making the announcement yesterday.
Renaissance will be funded by $20 million public-private partnership arrangements through simplified lending, a Bahamian firm which brokered the financing with Proven Wealth Management, one of the proven group of companies, a regional financial provider headquartered in Jamaica with business interests, as you would have heard, in the Bahamas.
Our Berthany McDermott has a full report on this that is now live on Our News Bahamas on Facebook. And despite a recent rise in COVID-19 cases, the Davis administration is not yet ruling out lifting the mask mandate by summer. We've got more on that in a moment, but before we get to that, it's time now for your first look at temperatures. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center. Greg?
Thanks, Kendino. Welcome everybody for our first look at weather on this warm and humid Tuesday evening. Outside the studios right now, temperatures in the upper 70s, 79 with a few clouds. We had some earlier showers. Those have since dissipated. We could continue to see 1 or 2 more showers later on tonight. East-northeast winds, light 5 miles per hour. Your feels-like temperature, a humid 85 degrees. On our satellite, that stream of moisture still pumping across the central and southeast Bahamas. Showers and thunderstorms associated with that feature. We will continue to see that weather pattern throughout the rest of the night and into tomorrow. We also did have some isolated showers across the northwest Bahamas. Some of those showers were a little heavy at times. Big Yard seeing some of that action. We will continue to see 1 or 2 more of those later on tonight throughout tomorrow. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
All right, thanks a lot, Greg. Well, still to come on Our News, sharpen those pencils. It's almost national exam time. Plus, renewed support for potential entrepreneurs. And diving into an underwater paradise on Grand Bahama. It's coming up when Our News returns.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Shamika.
Whether you voted for the Free National Movement or not during the last election, party officials saying they are seeking to make it up to residents with something akin to an apology tour. Our Megan Shepard explains what's next for the party following its fact-finding conclave last weekend. We've got the full story now live on our Facebook page at Our News Bahamas. Meanwhile, the Davis administration not ruling out plans to possibly lift the mask mandate by summer, given the recent rise in COVID-19 cases. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Darville was asked today if it's still up for consideration.
We are always hopeful. The situation is very fluid. We are in a relatively good position despite the numbers going up. And we will keep watching what's happening internationally and our tourism sector and the amount of cases that's coming in that are travel related before any final decision would be made.
As it relates to the rise in COVID-19 cases, Darville had this to say.
The cases in hospital are very low. Last week the cases were about 11, this week it's about 12, and that is across the board at Doctors Hospital, the Princess Margaret and the Rand Memorial Hospital and Sandals Rehabilitation Center. That is good news for us, and our team are concerned about the numbers, but while that's happening, we have no plan to tighten any restrictions at this time.
The Bahamas Junior Certificate and Bahamas General Certificate for Secondary Education are on schedule. Minister of Education Glenys Hanna-Martin confirming the news, saying officials are working on protocols for students who want to sit national exams but may have COVID-19.
If they contract it, it's not a fault-based situation. So we're discussing now how we would deal with situations like that. But of course, the undergirding rationale will be to do all that we can to ensure our young people can take their examinations.
The Education Minister says it is unlikely schools will have to shut down.
Everything is a case-by-case basis based on the circumstances, etc. But certainly there is no plan to shut down schools.
As Dr. Linda Davis takes over as interim president at the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute, the Education Minister weighs in on why she thinks it's a good fit. Sasha Lightbourne has the story.
The Minister of Education holding high hopes for the future of the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute as a new leader steps up at the tertiary institution. Glenys Hanna-Martin telling reporters the more than 20 years of higher education experience Dr. Linda Davis brings to the role of interim president will help BTVI to meet its mandate.
We are about ensuring our people are empowered in their own economy, in their own country. Dr. Linda Davis is a distinguished academic, and she has served at various levels and internationally, and we believe as an interim president she will be able to bring the necessary thrust and focus that we are seeking at BTVI for the expansion and extension of technical and vocational education for young Bahamians.
Now, as for the length of the interim presidency, the Education Minister says this.
There will probably be a search, and at that point we will see who emerges as the leader. But certainly we are very comfortable and confident that Dr. Linda Davis will bring the necessary wherewithal to continue to lead the BTVI to the places we would like to see it in this nation.
Dr. Davis takes over from outgoing president Dr. Robert Robertson.
Served us well at BTVI. He is still with us in a limited capacity as he completes a certain period before he departs.
Reporting for our news, I'm Sasha Lightbourne.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our news comes back from the break, focusing on the vision for small businesses in the country.
Plus, coming up in sports tonight, Jazz Chisholm swings a hot bat and Marlins get a win. We'll give you details on that. And also, how about the NBA Eastern Conference Finals? They're underway. Giving you details on that and more in sports.
And later on our news, we dive into restoring an industry on Grand Bahama. The details when our news returns.
Got size at 6'5".
This is our news. Welcome back. The Small Business Development Center continues to be an engine to fulfill dreams and aspirations for potential entrepreneurs. Formed in 2018, the center now has a new executive director. Our Sasha Lightbourne speaks with the new leader about the road ahead.
The new interim executive director for the Small Business Development Center, or SBDC, expressing excitement in her new role. Samantha Rule was appointed to the post last week, taking the position previously held by Davinia Bain. Rule tells our news she is ready to continue working on the overall vision and mission of the SBDC.
I'm excited to work with the team. We have an amazing talent pool here. And I'm also mostly excited about the impact that we're going to make moving forward.
Now, Rule also spoke to us about what some of her main goals are while being in this new position.
For me, it's all about people, process, and product, and making sure that not only here internally, that we influence, that we are ambassadors, evangelists of that, but we make sure outward to the public that we are reaching those who truly need it. So one of the key things I think it's important is when we foster the culture of innovation and entrepreneurship, we should do that probably in looking at community-based incubators, right? So how do we go into various communities and create these entrepreneurial incubators? And I think that would be amazing because then that's that direct impact in the communities.
Rule is only the second woman to hold this post.
I'm one that believes that regardless of gender, once you are qualified, it should not matter. In addition to that, if you are a female leader who is qualified, that's just tremendous.
Reporting for our news, I'm Sasha Lightbourne.
All right, thanks a lot, Sasha. Well, Jazz Chisholm still swinging a hot bat for the Marlins. Meanwhile, the NBA Eastern Conference Finals start tonight. Marcellus Hall is up now with sports.
All right, thanks, Condino. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Jazz Chisholm, so far this year, has been getting off to a great start for the Florida Marlins, now called the Miami Marlins these days. However, he's had a few days where he's been off. Last night, coming back into the lineup after an off day and getting a return in grand style. Let's take a look at how he did. Jazz Chisholm back in the starting lineup after a day off for the Miami Marlins. Marlins hosting the Washington Nationals, and things were going pretty good. Washington would jump out early, 1-0 in the first, but here come the Marlins in the bottom of the second inning. They score 4, including an RBI single by Jazz. Jazz, by the way, finishes up with 3 hits on the day, 3 for 5 on the afternoon, and the Marlins tack on another 4 runs in the 7th. They go on to get the win here. 8-2 ends up being their final score. Good win for Miami as they get set now to play another game in this matchup. That comes your way today against those very same Washington Nationals. Game comes your way early this evening, 6:40. In fact, we'll give you details on that tomorrow as that gets even closer. Meanwhile, no more Bahamians in the NBA playoffs, but they do continue tonight with Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals featuring the Miami Heat and, of course, the Boston Celtics. Should be a pretty good series there. We'll give you details on that one as we follow the NBA playoffs, now getting close to the NBA Finals again. No more Bahamians as the Suns have been eliminated, but nonetheless, still be some good, interesting watch to see how this one turns out at the end of the day. And that's your look at sports here on this Tuesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Kendino.
All right, thanks a lot, Marcellus. Well, still to come on our news, Greg is back with your extended weather forecast and restoring Grand Bahama's dime industry. It's coming up when our news returns.
Got size at 6'5". Hi, this is Shamika.
back to our news. It's time now for your extended weather forecast, and Greg is back in the Weather Center with a look at conditions for the rest of the week. Greg?
Thanks again, Candino, and welcome back, everybody, for our second look at weather. The official hurricane season starts in about 2 weeks, and we're going to toss some information at you over the next couple of days. These are the numbers forecasted. Colorado State having their numbers out already. 19 named storms expected, 9 of those becoming hurricanes, of course, 4 Category 3 or higher. And these are the averages, 14 and 7 and 3. Of course, it's expected or forecasted to be an above season average season, so we're asking you to get prepared for the hurricane season if you haven't already put in place your hurricane plans. These are the names: Alex, Bonnie, Colin, all the way down to Walter, the W name storms. And as I said, a very busy season or above average season expected. On our satellite, we're looking at that moisture still streaming out of the Caribbean across our area. The central and southeast Bahamas getting a lot more action, and those showers and thunderstorms will continue to push out towards the east. Dry air mass and high pressure system will be building across us over the next couple of days, but we are watching an area down in the southwest Caribbean and notice some moisture moving up towards the north. We are going to continue to watch that. There's a possibility for some development. It should move into the Gulf of Mexico, and if it does, it will be named Alex. Taking a look at our boating forecast for all areas tonight through tomorrow, variable winds at 5 to 10 knots. Your seas running 1 to 3 feet over the ocean. High tide will be at 9:50 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through next Wednesday. Of course, showers and thunderstorms in the forecast today through tomorrow. And by Thursday, Friday, we expect some of that moisture to move into the northwest and central Bahamas. So we could see an increase in some showers, and by early next week, conditions will be improving. That's a look at our weather. Back to you, Candino.
All right, thanks a lot, Greg. Well, Grand Bahama features shallow shipwrecks, reefs, and one of the world's largest underwater cave systems for scuba divers to explore, many of which have been inaccessible since Dorian. Now, partners on Grand Bahama are mooring together to restore the dive industry. Our Gene Joseph dives in.
Hurricane Dorian destroyed the extensive mooring system that not only guides boats through Grand Bahama's waters, but also helps ensure operators don't harm the southern reefs. The Ministry of Tourism's Nuvi Chadasing explains how our partnership with Grand Bahama Scuba will restore that system.
The Ministry of Tourism is very happy to be launching our first of 3 phases of replacing the moorings around Grand Bahama Island dive sites. During Hurricane Dorian, the majority, at least many of the moorings the dive operators used were destroyed and misplaced. And so this is phase 1. And I'd certainly like to thank Mr. Raga and GB Scuba for assisting us with this effort. They put in a lot of labor, they're dedicating their time, and this will go a long way in helping our dive operators around the island get back up and running full steam ahead.
A team of divers locates and retrieves sunken moorings to replace them. They then bring them to the surface using an inflatable float before they are switched out. Grand Bahama Scuba's Fred Reiger explains.
So one of the key things about putting out a working mooring, something useful to us, is we put a floating rope at the top. And the floating rope allows us to quickly hook it, grab it without a lot of trouble. When the ropes sink, they get all tangled up down below, and they're very hard to tie up to.
The moorings are free to use by all, but that comes with a catch. Reiger says the reefs are very delicate, and activities like fishing could be harmful to that ecosystem.
I may have made them, someone else may have paid for them, but once they're installed, we want everyone to use them. Therefore, diving, we don't really want everyone to go fishing, because as you just saw, what's under the moorings is extremely valuable to us as an ongoing asset. It's what people come here to see, it's what we love, and we need to keep them.
Hopefully, you take advantage of the new moorings on your next dive. Reporting for RN News, I'm Gene Joseph.
All right, what a beautiful dive and an excellent effort. Thank you so much, Gene, and thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Candino Knowles. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night, and until then, have a wonderful evening.